it takes so long to circle sometimes. Sometimes it's instant. Sometimes it's like continually going and going. And I have to vamp for a few minutes to try to get everyone to like get it to the point where it's going to record because it's still not there yet. It's still not read. I know, right? Computers are supposed to be fast, but this is slow. I blame Mr. Morgan. Clearly, he's hacked my computer. How could you do this to me, Matthew? I thought we were close. He says, no, I'm a criminal
I'm
mastermind,
sorry.
diabolical in all things. But guess what? It is now recording. I have thwarted his hacking. That's right. It's time to talk about the 5 pillars of Islam. So, the 5 pillars are going to be 5 key beliefs for all Muslims and things that they should do to be, good standing Muslims. So the first pillar, the Arabic word is shahada. And what that is going to be a public profession of the belief in one God and that Muhammad is his prophet. So this is a part for many people in their lives where if they would go to their mosque and they would go and publicly announce that they believe in one God and that Muhammad is his prophet. So kind of like how some Christians have like special events for like first communion, or how some Christians have baptisms, and how for Jewish people there's things like bar mitzvahs and girls bat mitzvahs, I think is how you say it. This idea when you become fully into the community, this would be a big part of that right there when you publicly profess your faith. The second pillar is the salat. And before I get any further, this reminds me, we're using Western sources for this. And one of the things you might notice is, and we're going to see this a lot this year, and I talked about it with some of the names earlier when we talked about the fall of Constantinople. Westerners, Europeans, are going to butcher and destroy these words, and you're going to see them spelled many different ways. So sometimes you'll see it salat with a T, sometimes you'll see it with an H. You're going to see several different spellings of these things, so just don't be too confused if you see salah instead of salat. I think that's closer to how it's pronounced, salah, but I could be mistaken. I don't speak Arabic. But that is the idea of prayer 5 times a day. Now, it's not just like charity's like, okay, I'm going to knock my prayer out. I'm going to pray 5 times, like right when I get up. No, it's 5 specific times during the day. And the idea of going and going this reliance, communication with God, and this idea of facing towards Mecca. So what happens is people in Islamic countries, you'll see this quite often. People will carry prayer rugs with them, and we'll see normally at this point of the year, the Walters Art Gallery, they send these trunks, and I would have an example of a prayer rug to show you all, and you'd be like, this is what it is, and people would carry them around, and we'll see pictures of those later on. And you would get on it, put it on the ground, and it would face towards Mecca, and you would pray at specific times. Yes, Isha, dear.
So I went to Dubai in an airport, and they have a special room for praying.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's a big part. It's a part of that culture, and you're going to see minaret towers high up in the air, and that's where an imam would go and call people and say, hey, everybody, it's time to pray. And people stop what they're doing and they pray, which it might be hard for some of us to realize, like some of our fast-paced, busy lives, how we're always on the move doing this, but they take the time 5 times a day to stop what you're doing and to pray. Thanks for sharing that, Isha. I appreciate that. Yeah, some places have it like, instead of having the rugs, have it built into the carpet, showing exactly where to face. Fun fact, it wasn't always Mecca that they prayed to. Before they conquered Mecca, it was actually at Jerusalem. Anyways, third pillar is the zakat. Also, sometimes you see it as the zakat. And this is going to be the idea of charity, of giving to the poor. Yes, not Miss Smith, but the idea of sharing your wealth, which is something that Muhammad preached about constantly. So we see Muhammad's teachings in this are a lot. He says, believe in one God. Guess what? We have the shahada, where you confess and believing in one God. This idea of worshiping God, surrendering to God, you have your prayer. Sharing your wealth, we have that in the zakat, where you're going and giving a portion of your wealth or going and doing community service, charity to help those in need. Now, the fourth pillar, the siyam, which I've also seen it spelt like an S-W-A-R-M or something. It's spelled, there's another way to spell it, which is very different. You'll typically see it spelled this way, although you'll see it sometimes spelled another way. And this is going to be an important one with the fasting during the month of Ramadan. This idea, no, it's not, they don't eat during an entire month because that'd be crazy. That's how people would die. But if you are healthy enough, if you're able, this idea that you don't eat during the daytime, before sunrise, after sunset. Amer, were you going to contribute, share? Please do. Please.
So, what they mean by fasting is they mean you eat during dawn and during night. I'm pretty sure.
After sunset, dusk. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Even
okay.
though I'm a Muslim, I don't know this.
Well, if I ever get anything wrong, though, please feel free to say, "Hey, Mr. Kenny, what are you doing? What are you talking about here?" Well, maybe say a little nicer than that.
You would have to. My mom would do that, but she's in bed.
Yeah. So this idea, though, that you don't eat during the daytime. Now, you can drink water, although you probably shouldn't have other things besides that. And if you're too sick, they say you can not worry about that. But this idea of fasting. Now, what would going and not eating during the day, how would that jive, meaning go with what Muhammad taught? I know, a tough question. Think about that. So how would this go with Muhammad's teachings? Is Emmy going to be brave? Is that a hand up to be brave? Be brave. What do you think, Ems?
Well, I know that, and also in my church we fast on like once a month on Sundays, and so it's kind of like showing. Okay, it's kind of hard. I don't exactly know how to explain it, but like we're giving, like, I don't know how to say it. It's like,
I know, it's tough, huh? You want to try, Aya? Then we'll get Sahil next.
We also fast in our church, but I think it's kind of like sacrificing like your meals for God.
Okay. And what do you think, Sahil?
We do fasting sometimes, but I think it's for saving more food for other people than eating it yourself.
Sure. And then also, so some of you have fasted. How many of you guys have missed a meal and been really hungry and had your tummy rumbling? Yeah, I know I have. Amer's never missed a meal, never had his tummy rumble. Wow. Well, I have a question.
No, I have fasted a lot last summer. Like,
Well,
I didn't eat like breakfast or lunch. I just ate dinner and dessert. So I just didn't feel hungry for some reason.
Okay. Well, one of the things with it is this idea too is if, we have poor Saya who can't feed herself all the time because she doesn't have a job, she feels that way all the time. So this is one way to identify with equality with those who don't have as much. Also, it is an idea kind of like of sacrificing. And also, when you're going and doing this, you can focus more on God, they say. And usually afterwards, there's a big feast in the evening because you're so stinking hungry. I was invited to a Ramadan feast, and I was really bummed out. I didn't get to go to it the one time I was invited. I was in college. But, so fasting during the month of Ramadan would be the fourth pillar. And finally, we have the fifth pillar, the Hajj, which is something that you're supposed to do once in your life if you're able, meaning you have the money, the funds to do that. And that would be to go and take a pilgrimage to Mecca, to visit Mecca at least once in your life. While you're in Mecca, you're going to do things like retrace Muhammad's steps. You're going to go circle around the Kaaba, just like how Muhammad did before he destroyed all of the idol statues. There are these pillars at Jeddah, I think it is, and you throw stones at it, representing stoning sin. Aiden, did you have a question or comment? I thought I saw a hand up. Yes?
I went through this phase where I just wouldn't eat breakfast for some reason.
Okay.
And my mom would always get mad at me. And I would be hungry and my stomach would hurt.
All right. Thanks for sharing. So these are the 5 pillars of Islam. Yes, Anna, I'm sorry, darling.
I had the same thing with Aiden, but it was during school for some reason.
Oh, okay. So let's move on. So these are 5 things that every Muslim should do if they are able. Things like fasting, doesn't always apply. It's only during Ramadan, and if you're sick, they say don't do it, or too young, things, and going to Mecca if you have the means to be able to do it. Other beliefs. Now, the Quran, and you will see Quran spelt a ton of different ways. It's crazy. You see it with a Q, you see it with a K, and you see different permutations where sometimes they go put an apostrophe in different spots. These are two common spellings of it, but you'll see it spelled a lot of different ways. And it's one of those annoying things about how Western sources went and totally were lame-o and just couldn't get it right. So that's the Holy Book of Islam. So as we talked about, we had for Judaism, we have the Torah, we had the Upanishads and things like that before. With when we talked about Hinduism, we have the Bible for Christians, things like that. The Quran will be the holy book for Islam. And as I told you, it was believed that these passages were given to Muhammad, and he wrote them in the caves outside of Mecca by the angel Gabriel. Another important vocabulary word that we need to know is Sharia, which would be Islamic law. And these laws are going to be either found in the Quran, or they're going to come from Islamic tradition. So like when we talked about Christianity with the early church fathers, people like St. Augustine, who is going to go write his thoughts about the Bible. We have some imams, which are going to be Muslim teachers, writing their thoughts about Islam, and some of those wound up becoming Sharia law. And finally, we have the most confusing and misunderstood aspect of Islam, and which is something that it's really sad how so many people have a warped perception or wrong idea about this. And it's called jihad, which means to strive or struggle. Now, there are two definitions for this word. There is the lesser and the greater. Now, the lesser jihad would be something such as fighting a war, which did happen at times where a war would be declared over the faith, about religion. We're going to talk an example about this with the Crusades, when Christians decided that they should be the rulers of Jerusalem and what we call the Holy Land, the land where stories of the Old Testament, New Testament, and Quran took place. And then there was a jihad, a war over that, because it was a religious war. The more important definition, though, would be the greater jihad, which would be the struggle within oneself to go and obey God. Because, we all have times when we know what the right thing to do is, and then there's the easier wrong thing to do. And unfortunately, sometimes we choose the wrong thing. Celine is just like, I understand that completely. But really, you mean more Titus always has a hard time doing the right. Because not you, Celine. You're the perfect angel. That smile, she's like, you have no idea, Mr. Kenny. Unfortunately, like we said, there's a lot of misunderstanding about Islam, and a lot of people, unfortunately, are prejudiced against this idea because of things that have happened where a few crazy people have done crazy bad things, and then news picks that up. So I do want you to realize that, Muslims are regular people just like you and I, and that this idea that some people say, and I hope that all of you are smart enough and wise enough to know that generalizations like this aren't true. Like you'll hear people say, oh, well, Muslims are terrorists. No, there are some terrorist Muslims, just like how there's some terrorist Christians, some terrorist Jews, some terrorists, Hindus, Buddhists, and everybody. There are bad people of all kinds of things, and they do bad things in all sorts of different names. So when someone tries to tell you, oh, this idea of jihad, it just means they're bad and they want to hurt you. No, there are some bad people, but there are, like I said, bad people of all walks of life. We want to understand people are people. So that's going to be our notes for the day, my cherubs. So I hope you got something out of it. I hope you learned something. Are there any questions as I hit the stop record button?